What's up? So I want to talk a little bit about my experience taking Jlpt and then kind of amongst that give advice. So a little bit of backstory is I did Japanese at high school and for 3 years at university, and every year that the test would come around, my teachers would always remind the whole class and be like, and encourage us to take it. But I don't know what it is, but I never did. But if you have that opportunity, I really recommend that you take it, just as a way for you to, get accustomed to the test. But I think that you should not be too hard on yourself, because if you're focusing on university and have to take the test, I think that'll be really hard. Because actually, my advice is kind of like, if you're like me and you finish uni and then you take the test, and what you can actually do is you have more time on your hands, and what you can do is actually use Jlpt as a guide for your study. So self-studying can be a little bit hard to know what to study and what direction to head. But if you base your study entirely around what Jlpt level you'll want to take next and then move up slowly, that actually helps you a lot with the test. And obviously, what I'm trying to say here is, if you learn Japanese however way you do, and then when the test comes, you study for it, especially and cram for it, it's going to be a lot harder than if you actually just used the test to guide your learning. So if you're still at school or at university, I think you should try and take it, even though I didn't, as a way to just see what it's like for when you finish university. You'll be able to have time to fully focus. You might finish university and then find that you'll be able to attempt N2. What I actually did was I finished university, then I tried N3 because I had spent about a year not learning Japanese before I finally tried to take N3. And my experience was that for N3 I didn't try, for N3 I only really studied for the test like when I knew I was going to take it. So, and that is what I'm trying to say is not the best thing. And when I studied for N2, I had made the point that I finished taking N3, and to the point where I took N2, I had made all my study based around and guided by the curriculum of N2, or whatever you call it. Like, if you search up N2 grammar, they'll have a list. So by doing that, that's how and it was a lot better than N3. I did a lot better in, especially in the grammar section and the kanji section, which is my strong point. I know it was like bam, 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 bam. And the listening was hard. But a point that I want to say is, I feel like no matter how hard you study, and no matter how certain you feel that you've covered everything you possibly could have, you'll always be surprised in the test, and then you'll always be left feeling really shitty about it. So if you can understand that, then maybe you won't feel so bad about the test. And you also need to realize that I think they might do that intentionally. So, for example, in most of the tests, you have to get, you only have to get about half, or somewhere around half overall. You do have to get a minimum in each section, but if you look up the specific, each one is a little bit different. So I think for N2, there's a total score of 180, and a pass mark is 90 points. So you only have to get half. And what I think that means is, if it was a perfect test, it would be 180 points, and then you score 180, and that shows that you're exactly N2. But that can't be how it works. So there has to be a way where if you get half the points, then that shows that you are around N2. And I think they purposely throw in hard words as maybe a test to see how you can cope with that and how that hinders your understanding. So I think maybe, yeah, you definitely will and be surprised by a whole bunch of words like, damn, I didn't study that, but you couldn't really have known. And that's probably for a reason. Because getting half is quite low if you think about it. I don't know. Like, that's a lot of language to not know. But that's just how they do it. Another reason why it's good to base your learning around the Jlpt is because if you ever plan to go to Japan, you will need to have either N2 or N1. And even though some people might think that it's a bit silly because it can't really judge your ability, the sad thing is that is what matters when it comes to finding a job. And yeah, they can't be having conversations with everyone to see how good they really are. It's just like, it's just the internationally accepted like rating of your language ability. It's better to, get it done rather than just avoid it like I had done at school and at university. Now I'll tell you how I usually study. So I think it's important to know your weak points. So my weak point is listening, and then I work on my listening by watching lots of Japanese YouTubers. So that's one thing. But then the other way that I learn all the rest of it is I use a site called Japanese Test for You, and I just kind of go through it, and then even if I don't know something, I'll see if I got it right, and then I'll change it, and then I repeat that like a whole bunch of times until I finally get like the right answer, and then I know it. And then I use Anki, and for example, if I'm studying for N2, well, right now I'm studying for N1, so let's say if I search up Anki N1 kanji, then it will have a pre-made file, and then I'll just go through that once a day. It only takes about 10 minutes. And then there's a YouTube channel called Nihongo no Mori, and they have lots of videos, so you can just watch them. You can watch them focusing lots, or you can watch them kind of mindlessly, as long as your Japanese study is primarily focused around Jlpt and structured by it. Then when it comes time to actually take the test, it will feel like you're very prepared, and you'll feel more confident, and you probably will pass. So, because if you think about it, like if you just keep studying it, surely you will eventually know every word, right? Well, it's not quite how it works, but it is. I think it's based in truth, because, like, I don't know, say with 10,000 words, and eventually you'll learn the 10,000 words if you keep learning them. I don't know, something like that. So right now I'm studying for N1, so I don't even know when I'll take that. I might take that at the very next opportunity, or I might not bother. But it will be really helpful for me, because I'm going to live in Japan this year now. And I'm going to live there 2017 on a working holiday. And when I apply for jobs, it'll be good if I can say I have N1. But for now, I'll just have to say that I have N2. Yeah, so the Jlpt is really difficult. I think a lot of people will have a difficult time. But I think if we all just study harder, or study maybe around Jlpt, like I said, maybe we will just pass it without a problem. So let's all gambarimashou. Gambarimashou ne. I think that's it. Feel free to leave comments with questions. I wouldn't be able to tell you where you can take the test. You have to find that out yourself by finding your nearest Japanese embassy. And also, you might be unlucky and find it's very far away. And if you're at university or at high school and want to take the test, they might arrange a trip there for you. That didn't happen at my school, but I think a lot of places might do it. Like the whole class will go for a trip there, and they'll just pay for the test for you or something like that. So that might happen. It is a bit lame that, you know, the test doesn't really, it shouldn't matter. It also doesn't test your speaking ability. But yeah, just think of it as when someone wants to hire you, it's a lot easier on paper when they can see and know with confidence at least like an estimate of your ability. So yeah, don't hate on it too much. Thanks for watching.